Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Barrett, editor of Electronic Sourcing magazine. You might see my face in the magazine from time to time. Welcome to this afternoon's live debate. The general subject for discussion is supply chain security in a turbulent world. I don't think any of us need to be too reminded about the ups and downs in the economy over the last few years, much of which has been beyond the control of the distributors of electronic components and the manufacturers of the finished products. I'd like to introduce the panel to you. I'll go along the panel one at a time. These guys here represent the many different facets of the distribution and manufacturing sector here in the UK and globally. So the idea really will be to highlight some of the supply chain security issues that have crept up over recent years, be they financial pressures, be they global logistics issues, be they natural disasters, and some sort of stuff creeping in like obsolescence and the counterfeit activity that comes with it. I'll be opening up the debate to the floor as quickly as we can to get some questions coming in. So first of all, let me just work my way along the table here to my left, starting with Graham Maggs from Mouser. To Graham's left, we've got Chris Hunt from SMS Electronics, Pat Leahy from DMTL, Simon Thake, I think, I can see down there. Yes, I can get it the right way around. Simon Thake from Rebound. Yes, hello there. Yes, you were hidden. Yeah, and Steve Rawlins from Anglia components. So I thought possibly if we just started, maybe working down the table, just to get an idea from each of these people with respect to what their company specialises in, maybe some of the threats that they've spotted, and some of the investments and tactics they've put in place to counteract that, just to see where the trends are. So maybe just a couple of minutes each to work our way along, and then we'll start opening it up to the floor, get a few questions in, and if no one's brave enough, I'll chime in myself to get things rolling. So a couple of minutes, Graham.
Sure. Thank you, John. And I'd like to thank Electronic Sourcing for the opportunity to put our name across. Many of you have heard, I hope, of Mouser. Mouser's been in Europe now for a few years. As a catalogue distributor, and I'm still using that dreaded word catalogue because a lot of our competitors seem to have moved away from calling themselves high service distributors and other names. But from our viewpoint, the security of our supply chain has been an important factor. Certainly here in Europe, in our development in the last 3 years, we've seen anything from natural disasters to volcanoes, from floods, tidal waves, and a number of things that can and do affect the supply chain. As a catalogue distributor, our role is to have a very, very wide profile of products, but not necessarily, unlike all the other gentlemen you see here, they're companies with the in-depth volume of the each individual part. We changed this. Mouser is being part of the Berkshire Hathaway group and also linked in with TTI. A number of years ago, not only with the profile in its breadth, we increased the inventory levels, and because of that, we quite enjoyed a lot of increased business during 2010 and early part of 2011 when some of these things happened. So from a catalogue distributor point of view, where we benefit from the width, the breadth, as well as the depth. We also only work with authorized manufacturers. So from our viewpoint, we really don't have very little problems with counterfeit. We do have controls. We have a quality control system in the US, which I'm not going to say is second to none, because most companies these days, certainly the ones that I'm sure most of you are dealing with, have very good controls in there. One thing I would point out is that there are a number of certifications that companies now are taking on, and we have recently gained AS9120. And it's not from the military aerospace point of view and providing military products, but the factor that we can now offer 100% traceability throughout the supply and the design chain on for that product, which gives you, I hope, the confidence that what you're receiving is product that is of a good quality and everyone understands right from the raw material through to your door exactly where and what that product is. So from our point of view, this debate is interesting because we want to get across to you that your industry and your distributor suppliers, are providing you with the confidence of what you're receiving.
Hi, SMS Electronics, obviously we're a contract manufacturer, and we're in kind of a unique position, is that all our customers have to trust us to manage their supply chain. So we're one stage further along from their estimates of what they're going to use, and I'm not going to go into details on how we do that, because Andy Maddock, our purchasing manager, just spent the last half hour in the previous seminar telling us how we do that. I think the critical thing for us is some of the things we see coming through from our customers, and we've still got customers giving us new designs where our obsolescence service is finding out that they're designing in obsolescent product on a new product. We're already seeing obsolescent 6-month notices before we build prototypes. That's still an issue. Some of the risks that we see are everything that we haven't mitigated for. You know, we've got good things in place, as everybody has, and you hit everything you can. It struck me when we had the tsunami that it was a terrible event. When we had the earthquake and the tsunami in Japan and everybody's watching, the first phone call we got was one from our blue chip supplier that said, buy everything you can now. Isn't it terrible? In that order. But that's fine if you can do that. The critical thing is what we don't know about. Everything that we're planning for is in the system that we're planning for. We've got that covered. We've got the buffer stocks. We've got everything in place. The bit that we don't know is the natural disaster that's going to hit us, or a supply chain dropping out completely, or even worse, one of the big guys taking every component for the next 2 years because that diode just seemed a great idea for the next iPhone. And suddenly you've got a designed-in product that's qualified and there isn't anymore. And you know, once you get into the 30 weeks, 40 weeks, 40-week lead time means to us, don't bother ordering it because you're not going to get it in 40 weeks either. So I think some of the issues we've all got is managing that, and managing that against what we think the commitments is, because our customer tell us what they think they're going to buy, our customer tell us what we're going to buy, we pass it on to the supply chain and tell them what we're going to buy, and if we're all 10% wrong, there's going to be some challenges somewhere along that line. But then again, we take the point, if you can't take a job, you shouldn't be an electronics manufacturer.
Thank you, Chris. My name's Pat Leahy. I happen to be Managing Director of Distributed Microtechnology, or DMTL. I'm not going to go overboard with what my company does for a living. I want to deal with the questions and the threats that we all have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. It happens that our company is specifically a design distributor, and we operate solely, exclusively in the passive component field. We've got a number of blue chip suppliers. The reason that they have elected to use my organisation as their method to gain market entry is that, first of all, we have an extremely good reputation in that market, and we snipe. We don't go and sell commodity components because there are plenty of people up here that can supply you quite valid, good quality, at very inexpensive pricing, wheelbarrow loads of ceramic capacitors, etc., etc., etc. The problem isn't in that area at all. The problem is in niche component areas, whether they're semiconductor or passive. Whether your problem is a material shortage caused by a civil war, as was experienced in the year 2000, whereby the material cost of tantalite went through the ceiling because people were stopping the lorries that were owned by the materials company at gunpoint and reselling that material, right? You all suffered as a result of that. One of my prime franchises is AVX. I'm very, very proud to have that as a franchise. We were in a very bad place, as was everybody else, Kemet, Sprague, what have you, and market pricing went through the ceiling. The immediate response to that and this is certainly the case in the UK, was a dynamic to move across to other products, to other materials. One classic example was aluminium, right? Let me stress, people like AVX know all about that situation. They know that they can't govern that situation, although they contribute extremely heavily to what is now known, effectively, it's a fair trade tantalum procedure, right? So they know that they're buying product that's valid, that's not causing a war somewhere, is not causing poverty. They have worked extremely hard, as have their competitors, to produce polymer materials, which are far more easily available and use far less tantalum. They've produced and continue to produce far more aggressive platforms for ceramic materials, right? Again, you're beginning to overlay by using different materials, and those different materials do afford, and the crux of this, they do afford engineers the ability to multi-source in an application. The root problem is that engineers, and I'm only going to comment on passives because that's my life experience, engineers, because of their time pressures, because of their constraints, right, are not genuinely investing as much into passive integration, right, as they do with semiconductors. Everybody runs around going, oh, I've got this Altera thing, I must have the Maxim thing that matches it. I'm just giving you that as an example. What they do not do is look critically at some of the hinge elements, those are the passives, those are the interconnects, and make sure that they have a genuine dual source. I'm going to move on, if I may. Assuming that you do achieve a situation where you've got a meritable dual source, which gives you purchasers the leverage that you need leverage. You need to be able to say to company A, listen, if you don't ship it on time, if you're not carrying buffer stocks, whether it's a distributor or an OEM or what have you, you need the leverage of being able to leverage, sorry, I'm not American, you need the leverage to be able to say to them, I've got this person in the curtain, round the corner, they're ready to keep you on your toes. I know I'm stating the obvious. Make sure you're engineering, and if it's your responsibility, make sure that you are achieving validly that. Now that's the number one bit. The number two bit, get the longevity of that product under control. We at DMT go into corporations the size of AVX and Kyocera. We don't insult them with the question. We are specifically their European design distributors. We will say to them, we need a guaranteed 5-year longevity on this product, a guaranteed 8-year longevity, right? Now, that guarantee, I appreciate, is only valid for that manufacturer and whilst they're capable of providing it. If there is an act of God, if there is an act of war, politely, there is going to be the chance of a crap out. But they're not going to turn around and say, we're not going to make the bloody diode again because there isn't a demand, right? You will at least be re-securing your position and gaining the leverage that you need to continue operating the way that you do. To close, if I may, I'm sorry to be going on here. We are a stocking distributor. We are not the size of Mr. Mouser or Rebound or Anglia. We will stock niche products for the OEMs for whom we have designed those products, and we will pass that benefit to the CEM. They will get the same pricing structure, they will get the same benefit of buffer stock as part and parcel of the arrangement, because I want to secure the business, I want to have the longevity of the business, and I don't want somebody walking around the market trying to get the business from me. So also use the leverage that you have to ensure that whomsoever is providing you the product, right, is buffering for you. You're the guys with the bloody checkbooks, right? We're not. It's only your check, really, that's going to provide us the platform, right? So use the checkbook that you've got. And finally, if I may, the other comment was with regard to qualification levels. There isn't a person at this table that isn't driving their company dynamically to genuinely improve their qualification levels. And it's not because we want to have glossy certificates sitting in a bloody boardroom somewhere, pardon my language, right? It's because we know that inherently that's what we need to do. The UK provides my company with about 35% of its direct billing. The UK provides my company with over 95% of its business, because 65% of what we do, we design here in the UK, and we then export the product for CEM manufacture in China, I've got to say it, China, Penang, Mexico, wherever, right? You justifiably should be extremely proud to work in the UK industry. You have some really excellent engineering. The only thing that is genuinely that has ever gone wrong in that scenario is that those engineers are not being given either the budget or the ability to genuinely focus on protecting your own business. But you're the guys with the money, you're the guys with the ability to make the decision, so make the demands of the people that are supplying you the product. Sorry, that's it.
I forgot what I was going to say now.
I've said it.
I think you said it.
By the way, that's very good now.
Is it? I thought it was. It's a bit hot as well. Funny enough, yeah.
That's an hour sing-along a pat.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, we're doing karaoke afterwards, yeah. My name's Simon Thake. I'm the Group CEO of Rebound Electronics Group. We're an independent distributor, or a hybrid distributor, as we like to queen ourselves at this point in time. I'm sure that might change as life moves on and everybody else follows us, as we seem to be finding that people are at this point as well. I'm not going to really sort of go on about our business itself, to be honest with you. We're a large global company now. We have, I think, 28 offices the last time I checked. Worldwide, we're heavily focused within the European Union itself. We have five offices, I think, in the UK itself as well. Going on to the actual facts of the matter, what we want to discuss today. Our problem we always find is obviously quality. And I know there's going to be people sat here and that's what they want to hit me with, for sure. So we might sort of hit it headlong and you can ask as many questions as you like. I've already been hit once. And I came in about quality. That's where we spend and invest our time, in reality, on the quality element of where we can actually, our quality of source of supply. And that's our biggest problem, is actually spending an inordinate amount of time and money actually ensuring that we actually deliver quality product. The other problem we have, realistically, which you guys obviously suffer with as well, is actually it's the pace of technology and how it changes. It changes so quickly. When I started in this business in 1982, it used to change every 12 months, 18 months. Now it changes every 4 months. And that's a real problem, and it must be a real problem for you. And it's even a problem for us if you're asked to actually step in and help a customer out because they have a shortage or a part's gone end of life. The reality to it is sometimes that those parts just they're not available. They're really not available. What is available isn't really what you really want to be selling to customers. So we want to walk away from that side of things. So I say that for us at the end of the day, I think that's the biggest problem we've got, is actually it's the supply traceability and also the quality of the supply chain that we've actually got, and how we can actually mitigate. The counterfeit is obviously what I'm talking about in reality here on that side of things. So that's my biggest fear, and that's our biggest sort of focus. We can do lots of other nice, sweet things, pricing across different continents, etc. But the reality is, it's all about the quality, of what we're actually supplying you and how you're getting supplied, and you have the confidence in us. As Pat says, we do focus on the quality element. We have ISO 9000, we have AS 9120, and these aren't badges that we collect. We actually work to those, and actually that's part of our continuity of our services to our customers. We don't want to be the biggest, don't want to be the best. We just want to actually service the middle ground is who we want to actually. It's the B-class customers. That's our business. That's our focus. Is actually the B-class customers, not the A-class guys. To be honest with you, they get serviced very, very well by franchise distribution and obviously the OEMs direct. But we believe that we can actually offer a service on the B-class and C-class customers. So that's really where I'm coming from.
Hi everybody, I'm Steve Rawlins, CEO of Anglia. I guess from the top end, the natural disasters, we're making the natural disasters ourselves. 80% of the world's semiconductors are built on fault lines in Japan and America. And as we move to more process technologies, more of the big semiconductor guys can't afford the investment and are going to sub it out. So you're going to end up with more silicon made in less places. So I think that's naturally, if something happens there, the supply chain always could get damaged quite quickly. What do Anglia do about things? We, with great respect to Simon, Anglia does not buy. We do not buy from any brokers. We only buy from manufacturers. We've produced a new small quantity service, and I believe we're the first distributor that offers lot traceability in small pack. That is something which is not available from the catalogue companies. And I guess the other thing we do as a private company, we have an advantage that we carry a lot of stock, and I don't have to worry. I can manage the business. I don't have to worry about managing a share price. And that does mean when we see supply chain issues, we've got the advantage, we've got the financial power to invest and buy. That's us really.
I'm just going to, normally I summarise at the end, but there have been so many fascinating comments just going down this table, all so diverse that I just wanted to do a very little quick summary to see whether we can pick some of these out to elaborate on amongst the audience. Here are some things that I've just noted across the things that have been mentioned just now. Breadth and depth of stock and simply holding inventory. Okay, so it's putting their money where their mouth is and actually holding product to make it available. Putting checks and balances in place to accommodate the expected, which is pretty straightforward, and that then leaving you with the headroom to actually manage the unexpected. Which seems like a pretty sensible thing to do. As Pat said, to use technology to engineer your way out of an obsolescence issue. Okay, cool. And to use your purchasing power to demand product longevity from your suppliers. You are the guys with the money to spend, so why not make sure that those parts are going to be available for as long as you need them before you start buying them. And again, back to the stock and inventory. Then to invest in quality control processes to make sure that if you do need to go to some obscure places around the world to buy your parts, you know that when they arrive, they're going to work. And that level of investment in test, I know, is pretty high amongst all of these guys here. And I think the UK should be really proud of what it's done there. And an interesting one, which I hadn't thought of, which was managing the pace of change. I mean, you know, I haven't designed anything hands-on for a little while, but I can imagine by the time you've designed a product into something, and then 4 months later you can't buy the parts anymore. I can fully appreciate that. Purchasing direct from manufacturers, and we're talking about the small lot traceability, and again another reference to inventory. So I think we've got some trends coming through here on inventory as a major contributor to managing supply chain issues. And then, well, as I was looking down the table, I was seeing lots of heads nodding when two words were mentioned. One was confidence. It would appear that maybe in the component supply industry, as in the finance industry, maybe an awful lot of this has to do with the purchaser's confidence in their supplier. And then finally, again, lots of heads nodding when the word standards were mentioned. It takes an awful lot of effort, I know because I've watched it take place, for distributors and manufacturers to actually secure the sorts of industry standards that mean something in this marketplace. And again, I think that's something that UK markets should be commended for. Again, talking about the actual issues, we've spoken about war, we've spoken about volcanoes. I've forgotten all about the volcano incident. It's already disappeared from my mind and it's been refreshed. Natural disasters, material supply issues, you know, there's a whole raft of things. So I think at this point, I'd like to offer out to the audience, out of all those subjects we discussed there, have we got some questions at this stage from the audience on any of those subjects or any other subjects related to purchasing components? Let's see some hands.
I'd like to start by congratulating Steve on the ADI franchise acquisition. And I also noticed a broad grin on Simon's face when you mentioned that 80% of manufacturing was on fault lines. But how exactly do you adjust your stock turn model to accommodate the fact that there is almost going to be a disaster every other year, given that 80% of it is on yeah.
Well, you can't second guess it, obviously. I mean, if you look at, say, the big American distributors, their business model generally works, and you can see this in their 10K report of a stock turn of 10. Anglia's stock turn is 2.5 to 3. So you're right, Adash, there isn't a limitless amount of cash we've got there, but typically we're carrying 4 to 6 months of inventory. And certainly with UK manufacturers being small and nimble, and they do need our service level. If a factory fails at the end of the day, I mean, the ownership really is with the manufacturer. Business plan wise, with AD, yes, we've taken a lot of stock in there. That's a big investment for us. And to be quite honest, when I see an opportunity like that, I'll be frank with you, I'll throw the business plan out the window because it's too big an opportunity for us to take. So I don't know if that's the right answer for you, but that's what we do.
So are you implying that all your competitors are on a stock turn of 10?
For the big American ones, yes, they publish those. Yes, absolutely. I think the private distributors, I mean, the big private distributors in the States and Canada obviously haven't. But if you look at the big guys, yes, generally stock turn of 10. I mean, that's how that, you know this, that's how that model works. And that's where we have an advantage. The risk we take, of course, is if the part goes obsolete or if the part is replaced by another part, we have the risk of getting stuff with inventory. And also because the stock's not insured, if we buy it at the wrong price, that is something we have to take. So I mean, what our customers don't realise is sometimes we have to put prices up and customers don't like that, but sometimes if we bought the stock at the wrong price, we have to write that stock down. And of course the customer doesn't see that, but that's part of our risk. But that's how our business works for the sector we address.
Another question. Chris, with all the consolidation over the last few years in terms of distribution, areas, do you find it becoming more difficult to negotiate sensible prices, contractual obligations, because your lack of choice has been reduced, or do you not find that an issue? With your data farming thing, Andy's presentation of confidence.
Well, I think Andy summed it up in his presentation. When you look at the spend and look at the concentration of how many companies we spend that money with, I don't think that's because Andy doesn't do that. We don't do that. We don't change horses every week. We're solidly behind our supply chain because we're dead without our supply chain. We both need each other. So I think it is a consolidation that's just seen that drop down to that level that, you know, suddenly your 3 suppliers is 1 supplier, and it's coming from the same source. I think it's quite interesting in the transition where you've got 3 suppliers that are the same supplier trying to bid against each other, but that's always fun. And I think that has happened in the past.
Not this side of the fence.
Well, certainly. But yes, it's obviously an issue. And as we're in the same boat as everybody else, and you know, it's the fact. The difficult thing is when we get a directed source as a contract manufacturer, and we appreciate the customer's worked on a design in and wants to support that design in. That gives them a moral dilemma, because if they say we want you to buy it from this source, and we say that's fine, can we just revise our bid and put it up slightly?
But don't you think the UK has historically had a 3-4-5% uplift in terms of prices, because it used to be quite a large part of the manufacturing European base? It's now potentially backwards to the areas that have the features, or is that the case?
Well, we don't just buy in the UK. So, you know, I think Andy is in the audience, will probably tell you that our biggest spend is in dollars. So we don't always buy in the UK, we buy worldwide. And that's basically because, you know, you said that, you know, the manufacturing and the designings are going to China and Eastern Europe, the rest. Just need to remind everybody that we're a UK manufacturer and we ship 70% of our product as export. And we ship to Japan and to China and to Eastern European and Germany and France and America. So, you know, it's easy. We may be quite rare, but we have to be very competitive to do that. And to do that, we have to get the supply chain right. A typical product we build will have an 80% material content. You know, we can be very good at doing the 20%. We want to squeeze a little bit of profit in there as well. So the 80% coming in has got to be right, because we've got to win that business. It's a competitive market, we have to shop. But I think we've got a good record of supporting our distributors and our supply chains. We don't change horses. We try and work with them on the right price and give them a chance to meet that price. Sometimes we get directed and sometimes we buy from that source. But to be honest, most customers now, how loyal they are, if we give them a bid that's a better price and then they tell us to go and buy 2 or 3 key commodities from somewhere else and the price goes up, they can get very unloyal very quickly.
You talked about customers using their purchasing power to try and persuade manufacturers not to obsolete anything in the UK. I'm not convinced that what is left of the UK manufacturing, being a low volume, high mix, mainly industry, has got the financial strength to actually do that. I think what's maybe lacking is the relationships between the OEMs in this country and the actual manufacturers worldwide. That's what's lacking. I think if we had industry bodies like AFDEC or even COG, who are here today, I think there's an expectation because many semiconductor manufacturers follow the consumer world. There's almost an expectation to obsolete. And the fact is, I think even customers almost expect it to be obsoleted. And the question is why? Because if you had an industry body like AVDEC or COG to get together and actually lobby the manufacturers like Linear Tech and Analog Devices and Xilinx and Altera as a voice. And because we don't have a voice to go lobby Silicon Valley, I think if you had the relationship with the manufacturers, the guys who design the silicon, they might actually listen to you. You know, because some marketing guys somewhere in Silicon Valley saying, we're not selling enough, we're going to obsolete it. But if he actually got a group of customers saying, don't do that for the next 5 years, they might be more understanding than you think. So, just a comment.
But only the passives element of it, okay? My background is only passive, so what I want to do is to, if you like, respond to that, but only from that area of the industry, because anything else is merely going to be an opinion. It's not going to be based on any knowledge set that I've got. But I suspect Steve is probably in a far better position to comment on the semiconductor side. The point that I was making was that you have to understand at an engineering level, right, whether that is an inherited design that you're responsible for purchasing against and supporting, or it's a redesign, it's a new design, right? You have to get your ground rules in then, right? One of the problems that is so evident, it's not just in the UK, it happens to us in Spain, Germany, the Ukraine, wherever. The problem is that we're all concentrating on the immediacy, right? The challenge, the unfairness of a product being made obsolete. A manufacturer suddenly deciding they'll only manufacture 20% of it, but they'll expect it to yield 5 times the price, right? Because that's their EOQ game, because they think they have the leverage, right? The thing that I will restate, and I don't mean to bore people with it, you've got to grasp that first of all at an engineering level so that you're not building it for next time, right? With the best will in the world, whilst there may well be a strong sentiment for the production of a semiconductor and or a passive and or a connector and whatever it is, a group that would have influence over manufacturers. The biggest influence over any manufacturer is you. And your representation, I'm going to go back and bang a bit of a drum for DMT. It's our role, specifically as design distributors, to go and protect those interests of yours. I have no interest, and I have a company that has a 25-year longevity, it will outlast me. I have no interest in a situation where a client that we have supported becomes my enemy in 3 years' time because a manufacturer pulls the plug on a product. You know, it's self-defeating. What we are doing, and what I think everybody here is intent on achieving, is a situation where we have such a relationship, such a closeness with you, that we should be living and breathing the development of those products. We should be representing you with the manufacturer. That's what your distributor is actually there to do. That's what he's there to do. Yes, we are here to buffer stock for you when we've got a reasonable level of intelligence and data and a reasonable level of agreement with each other as to why we will make that investment in support of your business. As a free investment, we will help you design yourself out of that problem. We will do our utmost to do so. Just go and ask the companies that do that, right? With regard to slamming the stable door because the horse is bolted, I don't think there's a legitimate answer to that. There may well be in the semiconductor market, because of the leverage that you guys have with your buy, right? My buy is only some 8, 12%, 15%, if I'm lucky, of the component buy that you're spending. So your big leverage is with the semis guys, right? It is a lesser problem in passives in the first place, but partly because we keep on pressing the technical dynamic back into the client base, right? So that you are readdressing it as you're going along, so that there isn't this big bad door that gets slammed. Nonetheless, it does get narrowed. I will restate it. Engineer it properly in the first place. Make sure you've got some sort of compliance and support from a manufacturer in writing that says there is a longevity to it. But consider re-engineering. I'm finished. You talk about semis, please, Steve.
I think that the ideas and the concept's great, Alistair. I really do. There should be a voice for people on that basis, specifically with, as I was saying about the change of pace of technology. The problem with it is, as I see it, and Steve I think touched on it earlier as well, with people who've got the big guys themselves. You've got KKR, you've got Blackstones. A lot of the semiconductor businesses that were overtaken or were taken over in I don't know, probably in the last 10, 12 years. You don't have a voice with people like that. These guys, these private equity players, these venture capitalists, they don't care. They have a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan, and they borrowed a lot of money, and they're going to plough it in. So they don't really care what a customer says, and they are technology-led. They really are, which is going to be consumer-led completely. If you consider where the market is today and where it was. It'd be interesting to see where we are in another 5 years' time, because I think these guys will clear out. I think the likes of the KKRs and the Blackstones and all these other huge equity players that have stepped into the semiconductor market in the last sort of 10 years, maybe that will make a difference, and you'll actually get some, not necessarily real shareholder value. I mean, it's not just quick buck stuff. I mean, I just know what happens to the likes of Freescale and the like, but ultimately Freescale was the one I was sort of thinking of. Was, they got canned on all their part numbers. A whole batch of part numbers just got obsolete just like that. Nobody really cares from Blackstone's perspective, and that's where the driver's coming from. So if you can get to those people who actually own the company, then that's maybe you'll have a voice. I suppose that's the only thing I would say. Yeah, not down to the design guy who actually works at Freescale, I don't think.
I guess the only thing I'd like to say about obsolescence is that if you look at the analog suppliers, I mean, most of those guys are making 60, 65 points of gross margin. And so they have got the margin. They don't need to obsolete parts because they've got the margin there already. And when you look at the parts that are getting obsoleted, I mean, for most of our customers, the design needs to be refreshed all the time. So, I mean, I personally only see the obsolescence issue really on sort of the higher L market, the medical, where you've got products which have got a long lifespan. Most of our customers are making products that don't have that longer lifespan. So is it such a big issue? And technology, micros change, we want faster parts, we change our phone 3-4 times a year. That's fact, that's just going to happen really. So I think on the higher L side of things it's a major issue. That's not a big part of our business at the moment. On the consumer world, I think it just turns around. And I think customers redesign all the time to bring out parts with lower power or more feature, and that changes the silicon. And sure, if the silicon guy's not making money out of the part, he'll discontinue it, unless he's got big enough margins to still support it. That's my view there.
That's all right. I'm older than I look, but I still.
Really?
Yeah. I'm older than I look, but I can still remember my college days, and I wonder about how the education system is being used in the UK at the moment to develop engineers and buyers with a sufficiently rounded knowledge of the manufacturing process to allow them to accommodate some of the issues that we've been talking about here in this design process. Or I'm wondering whether the whole education system, certainly as it was when I was in it, doesn't discuss any of that. I remember design for manufacture, design for test being topical subjects 25, 30 years ago, and yet we sit here today with manufacturing lines all over the country sitting idle waiting for some parts. I see it happen, so I know it still takes place. And Graham, your business focuses on new technology, novel technology. So you must be at the forefront of that. And I just wonder, in terms of the sort of customers that you're dealing with, whether you're seeing improvements in skill levels, I guess, at a design stage to try and mitigate these types of problems. I saw a great example just recently of some product coming back from China, and the reason it was being brought back because they wanted to reduce the cost. And the way that they were doing that was through design for manufacture and design for test. And I just wondered if you saw any trends in terms of the sort of skill levels coming through. So yeah.
It's a good question. I have to say my input is from a European point of view, but it was interesting that last week this subject come up in a similar way. Actually, the week before, when I was at EDS with a supplier. It is now recognized that companies like myself, and I think even Steve Anglia, where he's seeing a lot of companies reducing their work with universities and developing lecture tours and mini-bitions and just passing over their knowledge of the manufacturing side of the products and the designing of the products to universities, primarily because, I hate to admit it, but there's not a great deal of money to be made there. You're seeding the market for the future, but a lot of large companies these days on the component side do not want to invest the money in going to universities. There is a company that I work with, a UK company. They manufacture in the UK, and they actually have dedicated people going out to these companies. It's a small company, well, not small, I'm sure. There's someone here actually from Harwin Connectors in Portsmouth, and they have people going in and working with universities, and we've done a little work with them because we did see the trend ourselves and the lack of support from the component manufacturer. As far as designing in, testing in, and that knowledge, I have to say, I don't see it anywhere. So when you were saying it's reduced, and I was trying to rack my brains to think where I've actually seen it, I've seen nothing. I see a little bit from the associations. I think the associations are taking up the banner and trying to lead the education to the not only to the universities but to the government themselves. People like I still call it AFDEC. I'm sorry, it's not the right wording, but AFDEC take this type of issue to the government, saying the lack of investment, the lack of drive from the government into design and into manufacturing in the electronics industry in this country. You see it in Germany, Poland, Czech, where universities are much more proactive with the with future design engineers. But in the UK, that's not been the story. From my company point of view, we're not very good ourselves on supporting that. We've not been promoting the university side of things. We do so in the US because we're more established and recognized, and the support that we get from the manufacturers in the US is a lot better. And we're just developing that in Europe, but we're a long way behind, and we're catching up. But thank you.
Anyone else like to comment on that? Yeah, Chris?
I kind of disagree. We do work with the universities. We do welcome students in. We welcome graduate engineers in. We had graduate days that have got no direct payback to us, but we're trying to educate the graduates. I've got an apprentice scheme. We work with a local college to develop that apprentice scheme to get the skill sets into the education system before we take on the apprentices. So it can be done. We desperately try to get our customers' engineers into the plant. There's probably not one day a week that we don't have a customer on site on the plant. We desperately like to get the engineers in there because they don't understand the complexity of the manufacturing in some cases. And if you can tell them what we can do, and it works both ways for us, not only does it stop the bad practice, it opens their eyes to restricted designs. They're sometimes designing products that are 5 years old in the way they're put together because they didn't know that technology is available to put it together. So it does work, the education. And when you've got 20 people to look after and feed and in for the day and walking around the plant and doing all the presentations, you ask yourself, is it worth it? I think it is. In a few days, in June, on 18th and 19th June, we're holding our own event. It's an industry event. It's not a sales event. It's to get people into Nottingham, into an independent building, into the university, and we're literally bringing in our supply chain and experts from the industry to teach those engineers what's available, whether it's PCB, component selection. That will pay benefit for us, because if they know what's capable, a better chance of building it in the UK. So, I would slightly disagree. I think we're putting more effort into that.
I work for a manufacturer. We've been hit over the last probably 12, 18 months with everything as you've described, from the tsunamis and then floods in Thailand, etc. We get lots of requests to validate product. By that, I mean, I'm not talking about a franchise distributor. That's fine, easy to do. But we primarily come from CEMs who say, we've got this product. we need you to validate it's correct. Now, my question is, first to you, is what would you expect back from us? And I presume you're expecting a big tick, yeah, it's fine, you can use it. But obviously we're put in a very awkward position. We have no provenance for that product. Very difficult to establish where it came from. It may have a label on, but actually we found instances where the labels are very, very good copies. So what would you expect from a manufacturer?
We've done, we believe, very well over the last couple of years. We've probably had 2 counterfeit parts get as far as being to the production floor before they were found. And we've got all the checks and balances we can get in. We have them usually approved off-site before they come in. If a supplier, even whether it's grey market or wherever it's from, doesn't want to do that, then the alarm bell should start ringing anyway. We've had good feedback from the supply chain. We have actually taken product and we've took date codes and we've took descriptions and we've sent the photographs and the x-rays and say, is this a valid batch code? And we've had an interesting answer. Like, we never ran that product in that week. So we can tell you now it's counterfeit. We've also had product that came in that was technically not counterfeit. It was from the right manufacturer. It had got the wrong marking on it, and the guy that was selling it as might not have been selling it as wrongly. It just wasn't the right voltage Zener diode in the package. But there was something in there, and it probably would have worked, just not in the application that we wanted it for at the time. But we've managed to stop that, and we've invested another 100 grand, 150 grand this year on our own lab capabilities, and that's our last gasp. If we're not sure, we'll do everything we can. We'll x-ray it, we'll do all the tests, we'll take the top off, we'll grind it down, we'll look at the silicon, and then we'll go with it, and we'll make a small batch, and if the customer's happy, and God forbid if we get to the point that we're all pretty sure, then yeah, we may ask for a tick in the box and somebody's got to hold their breath and go with it. But it's not in our benefit either. If we're not right to go, we won't go. Because at the end of the day, in 2 years' time, when product's falling over in the field, it will be, who built this for us? And they'll remember who built it, but they won't remember the question you asked that said, are you sure? Are you sure you want to move away? It's your reputation on the line. And as I say, it's most of our customers, we are their total manufacturing solution. So if we get anything wrong, it's our fault. You know, if you deliver 400,000 boards a year and 5 fall over, it's your fault, regardless whether you had a bad batch of chips or the normal failure. So if you buy something in the grey market, our biggest single failure to date was a customer that free issued chips. Because we couldn't find them, he could. He bought literally tens of thousands of these devices. Not cheap. These were $30 parts. Turned out to be reclaimed parts in China. They did work, but they've been on a board twice, removed, reworked, reballed. We process it on a double-sided board. It's had its 6th temperature cycle. Why did 30% fail? Because we were doing something wrong, because they'd never failed before, so it had to be us. Until we say, where did you get them from? No problem. And for the 4 batches that they had previously, no problem. And the guy in China says, well, we couldn't get any new ones, so we got some reclaimed parts for you. So, you know, that's the only time we've had a real problem, and it was a free issue part. Great for us, because we had no liability on that part, but for 3 weeks we were guilty. You know, for 3 weeks that customer was looking at whether he needed another contract manufacturer because we got something wrong, the process was out of control. It's only because we got good process controls that we could actually show all the output from the machines and say, if the process is shot and we built 6,000 boards this week on that line, why did nobody else's fail? That they actually start to believe you. But that's the issue we've all got. Occasionally somebody will make a decision to go. And we have had customers that have made the decision to go. And to be fair, got away with it. It's been okay. But yeah.
I was just going to direct the question really towards probably Graham and Steve. Thanks, from the point of view, it's all right. From the point of view of a franchise distributor, I mean, what's your view of where a customer, you know, who's in Chris's position, who's desperate to build something, I'm not saying you're even in the loop.
Well, it's not that. It's just that I think you're probably aware the answer I'm going to give is not going to be suitable, or it will be received in a positive way, because we deal as a distributor with only authorised manufacturers, and as an authorised distributor of those manufacturers, then I'm only ever going to suggest that all of you only purchase through authorised distributors. So from that viewpoint, that's one way of guaranteeing the product that you're seeking. However, in the real world, there is obviously the need to fulfill and to meet your end customer needs, and manufacturing on-time delivery is a critical part of it. I can only assure you that the best way to approach that is by test at both ends, and ensuring that the qualification process at that test is done in the right way, which I'm sure is part of your process. But I'm afraid I go back to my original statement. Buy from an authorised supplier, and that supplier buys it directly from the authorised manufacturer, well, not authorised, but from the manufacturer of that product.
I'm looking forward to it. I've been waiting all after. There's the net. I'm going to call fault.
I mean, you're right. I mean, the reality to it is we actually only buy from authorised franchise distributors anyway. Obviously we're European based. You're European based, and the platform that pricing sits on, I'm afraid, is different worldwide. Asia's got different pricing. Europe's got different pricing. US, South America, you name it, it's all got different prices. There's no consistency at all. There's no control, from the manufacturer on that side of things, and then I don't think there ever will be. Certain manufacturers are certainly doing a very good job of actually policing their point of sale, but there's always going to be a loophole, I'm afraid, as well, and that's another risk. The other risk, I would say, also from the authorised manufacturer, the actual manufacturer themselves, there has to be some element of responsibility as to how this product gets into the marketplace as well. There just has to be some, and at some point in time, I believe that I believe in the background there's a lot of work going on, a lot of conversations going on with some of the big manufacturers in worldwide, where they're actually having this conversation as to how they can police what they actually do with reclaimed parts, where parts actually find themselves in the market. They're not really being crushed. Substandard product gets into the marketplace because the marketplace can actually cope with it. Certain continents can certainly deal with it, and they can utilise the technology for that as well. So, because it does actually work, it just won't do 100% of what it's supposed to do. But I mean, we as Rebound, we do buy through authorised channels. That's what we do. We either do buy from a manufacturer directly, or we buy through a franchise distributor. And happy to tell customers and show customers the actual audit trail where we buy it from and how it works. Not a problem at all. And I think there's some brokers sat here as well, or hybrid distributors, whatever you would like to call us. But who sit here and they do exactly the same thing. The risk comes when it's an obsolete product. Generally, you find customers, if it's too good to be true on the price, then you've really got to believe that it is too good to be true. We tend to walk away from it, and actually, if we find that we just can't find product from an obsolescence perspective, we do find it eventually with somebody that we've never dealt with, we've never actually qualified, then we push it back onto a test house, which we utilise, and then on that basis, it comes to the customer. The customer actually has to make that decision as to whether he actually wants to go with it, run the risk, and if he does, then fine, no problem at all. But we don't tend to. I don't think anybody else does now. I mean, the counterfeit market, by the way, if you think of the figures that are being kicked around at the moment worldwide, just on the component side, it's $44 billion, and I can tell you that will grow unless somebody does something about it. I mean, it just will. Why wouldn't it? And you can imagine what the margins are like on that. So, and by the way, we're not setting up a subsidiary yet, doing that. So, yeah, for sure. Not yet. No, we're not. No, we wouldn't do that.
Yes, it will be nice. Of course, it will. No, I think realistically, I mean, all of our customers use brokers. You've got to use brokers. The large Americans have got high stock turn. The stock's not in the channel. The convergence of all the big distributors actually creates more opportunity for small private distributors. Rebound, I'll speak for Rebound. I mean, I would love to say the same as Graham here, that I would like all customers to buy through authorised channels, and that would be best for our business and best for Graham's business. But it's not real life. It doesn't work like that. Most customers have got to have at least one or two brokers on side to work through that supply chain, and that's a fact. And you choose your right partner, and off you go. So that's what I see.
I'm just looking at the time. We've been here an hour now. It's time to wind down because I think the rooms have got to be emptied in preparation for the networking dinner tonight. It's going to be impossible for me to summarise all of this because too many things have been discussed. I would like to say probably the one thing that's really hit me is the level of professionalism and investment and desire to get things right from all of the companies represented here on this table. And I would assume, because there are plenty of companies that are working in the same market that couldn't be sitting on this top table today, the amount of effort that they are putting into. So I think certainly the UK distribution sector can be rightly proud of the level of professionalism and investment in the efforts it's made. And I guess the rest of the world could learn a few things from us. So that's rather cool. And the two other things is clearly process control is really what's been discussed here today. You know, if we've got to cope with the unexpected, then we need to cope with it in a very controlled fashion, and that means process control, and that means engineering, and it means standards, and it means all the great things that we're pretty good at. And finally, that, you know, if you do both of those things, then the word that emerges is confidence. If you have confidence in your supply chain, then you can put, as you say, that tick in the box and get on with making the product. So I think I'm going to have to round things up here because we've run out of time. First of all, a huge round of applause, please, for these guys. That's it. So thank you all for attending. I hope it's been useful, and I hope to see you a little later if you're booked into the dinner. Thank you.